Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to what is hopefully an exciting video. Today I am going to be talking about all of my favorite books. Before we get into it, I want to reiterate what I just said, but these are my favorite books and I don't claim them to be the best books ever. I don't claim them to be the best ever written books or even the most life-changing, but these are the books that have left a lasting impact on me, that have moved me, and that I still think about a lot. And second, if you're not new here, then you have most likely heard me talk about all these books, or at least some of these books. I've definitely mentioned all of them in videos, so these may not come as a surprise for you, but I still wanted to film this video because I realized that I never made a video like this. When I was writing this list down, I realized that there's a few books that I didn't put in here that could potentially be favorites, but that I haven't reread in a while, or that I read in 2024, and 2024 was a kind of strange reading year for me, and I don't think that I have a lot of memories on the books I was reading that year. There's just so much stuff going on in my life, and I think that overpowered all the memories that I have of the books that I was reading back then, which is rare for me personally because I'm typically someone who remembers pretty well what I read, so not having memories of a lot of the books from 2024 does mean that some of the books that could potentially be all-time favorites are not in this list. But with all that being said, the first book that I want to talk about I did read in 2024, and it might be tied with my favorite of all time, and that is La prochaine fois que tu mordras la poussière by Panayotis Pasco. This is a work of autofiction, which is very similar to memoirs or autobiographies, except there are a few elements of fiction to build the narrative a little bit. But this is written by a French artist who is mostly known for being a comedian. He does stand-up comedy, but I call him artist because he's obviously written a book. He's also an actor. Yeah, I think he's just pretty well-rounded within the arts. And this book talks about his depression, his relationship to his father, and his relationship to his own homosexuality. He started writing this after his father announced that he was going to die. And the writing in this book is really honest. It's almost shocking at times how blunt he is, and at first it's a bit uncomfortable, and I don't think that the writing works for everybody, nor even the way it's written, because it's not linear at all. You are sometimes in the past, sometimes in the present. There's no clear cohesive chronology, but I underlined so much and I found myself relating so much to this man who technically I should not have related to, in the sense that I'm not a homosexual man. I don't have a difficult relationship with my father, and yet despite all of that, I found myself so seen in some of the things that he was saying and fascinated by the things that I couldn't relate to. To give an example, there's two things that I think about a lot from this book. One of them is him talking about himself crying at night, and he's laying down and the tears fall in his ears, and he says that he's listening to his sadness. That part blew me away. It's a kind of thing that we've all probably lived through, crying while lying down and the tears just fall in your ears and they clog up your ears, but writing it, listening to your sadness, I thought was mind-blowing. And then there's another part that I really enjoyed, and he's talking about how when he discovers a new music that he likes, he listens to it over and over and over and over again until he gets sick of it, and that sometimes he does this to other people. I don't think I do that with other people, but I can definitely do that with stuff that I get interested in until it overflows and I start hating it. So I'm really hoping that this book will be translated to English one day. I am holding out hope because my favorite romance French author is getting her books translated to English. So hopefully this book will get that too. Next is Open Water by Caleb Zuma Nelson. Now, I've read this book 3 times and I recommended it to my roommate who recently read it, but what I remember from the 3 times reading this book is that each time that I went into it, my brain focused on an aspect of the story that obviously I'd read before, but that wasn't the main point for me at the time. And I think this is just so telling about reading books in general, is that you end up relating to certain things at certain times. romance. And with Open Water, we follow a love story between two Black people in London, but it also follows police brutality and racial profiling in general, as well as the need and love for art, especially within that context of violence. I think this has some of the most beautiful writing that I've ever read. Caleb Azuma Nelson just writes in the most lyrical way. I was blown away by it the first time I read it, and I read it when I was fairly young. I think I was maybe 17. I have revisited it since, and I still love it so much. There's some amazing insights on what it means to make art, what it means to love, and even how love is a privilege. I just find there's so many layers to the story, and it's one that I will most likely continue to revisit over and over again. So if you haven't read it yet, highly recommend. Obviously, as is the case with every of the books on this list. The next one is a very interesting one. It's Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've definitely talked about this book before because it's my favorite romance book, but it's not my favorite romance book to recommend to people. But Happy Place follows two people, Wynne and Harriet, who were in a long-term relationship, and they have ended that relationship, but they find themselves in the situation with all their friends in a beach house, and because of things that happen in the story, they're going to be pretending that they're still together. I don't recommend this book to people, partly because I don't want to hear any negative thought about this book from anyone, because I felt the story so deeply in my bones both times that I read it. Both times I cried almost the entire time, and that's never something that happens to me reading books. I will cry at certain parts, but crying at stuff that isn't sad or isn't even necessarily moving is what makes this book a favorite for me. I just felt their connection so deeply, and I related to the characters so deeply. And what I find incredible about Emily Henry in this book and in a lot of her other books is you manage to feel and see exactly how the main male character feels without being in his head. I don't know how she does it, because I think to infer how characters feel is very difficult, but with this book and her other books, I found that she's done all of this brilliantly. I think this one charmed me more than her other books also because it's actually hard to write a pre-existing connection between characters, and most romance books tend to be about them meeting, them falling in love. This is about them meeting, falling in love, not being able to sustain that, but not falling out of love, and then going back to each other. I will always hold this book really close to my heart. I think it can work for people who don't necessarily love romance books, but like I was saying, don't love recommending it because it would be a personal insult to me if someone read it and then didn't like it. Just feel so close to this book that I already know that it's probably getting a movie, and if I am correct, I think Emily Henry herself is supposed to direct it, but I don't think I will be watching it because this is just perfection to me in the way that it already is, and I don't ever want to ruin how I feel about the book by watching that movie, so don't think I will, but we'll definitely be rereading this at some point. I just keep pushing it off all the time, and I try not to actively think about it because it makes me emotional, and because it's not the most pleasant reading experience, to be honest, since I am crying the entire time. So that's Happy Place. Then we have a recent read, and that is Educated by Tara Westover. I read this in March, and it was recommended to me by my roommate, who asked me if I'd read it before, and I told her I'd heard about it, but I hadn't read it, and she was shocked because I am in an education degree, so she bought it for me. And there's a little note from her on the inside, and part of the reason that why I love this book so much is the act of reading it and being able to talk about it with her. And I felt very similarly when I was reading Wuthering Heights, because we were reading it at the same time and talking it through, and both of these books have a lot of shocking elements, and being able to talk about them with someone just enhances the experience of reading it. But I remember when I opened this book and I started it, being stupidly shocked at how well this was written, especially the prologue. I know why I didn't expect it to be so well written, because I heard it's the story of a girl's relationship to education and getting access to an education pretty late in life. And so for some reason, I just computed that with maybe not the best writing, and I was really wrong. Tara Westover writes magnificently, and I think this book has so much nuance, and I've seen interviews with the author after I read this, and she's very smart. And I like that this is not presented as solely, or even really at all, call a success story, or even the American dream type of narrative, or, you know, education will save you. Because at the end of the day, she gains so much from her education, but she also loses so much. And I really liked that nuance, and I really liked that she didn't shy away from talking about it and how difficult it was for her to make the decisions that she was making in this book. For those who don't know, we follow Tara, who comes from a radicalist Mormon family, and her parents refuse that she gets a formal education, and she ends up leaving home to get that for herself. There's just so much nuance even in the way that her parents bring her up, her relationships to her siblings, and I think in some ways the way that she talks about these things is because she did get a formal education, but I also think it's largely just her being able to have a well-rounded outlook of things in her life. Really incredible book, and I think about it a lot. Recently gifted it to my mom, so that's how you know a book is good. So that's Educated by Tara Westover. Then is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I was debating which Sally Rooney to talk about because I loved all her books, but I decided to go with Normal People because I think in the grand scheme of things, it's a book that I keep revisiting and that I just have felt so attached to the characters. I think that was enhanced through the show, and Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones did such an amazing job at bringing these characters to life, and the whole show itself is honestly so strong that, dare I say, I don't think the book is necessarily better than the show. In fact, I think I might have read the book after I watched the show, but because the show comes from the book, I still want to talk about the book because A, I read it 3 or 4 times, B, I watched the show 3 or 4 times, and yeah, I just found myself connecting to a lot of the things in this book. I always say this, but if you're able to relate to these characters in any way, then this book will hit hard. And if you're not, then you're probably following insufferable people and you won't understand why they have this relationship to one another, why they are the way they are. But if you connect, I think it's just so strong because it puts words on experiences that you live through that you can't word yourself. There's many passages where I just felt it was beautiful, but it was also just really simple writing, and in that sense it's really accessible. Thinking about one part in the beginning where Marianne has the sense that her real life is happening somewhere else, and when I read this in high school, I felt so connected to her because that's exactly how I found my high school experience was, and that I just could never step into what real life is. I don't know that I have since, but there's just so many moments in this book that I found myself relating to or thinking about, even with Connell, especially in the second half with Connell, his loneliness, specifically, and his inability to connect to people. There's just so much, and despite all of these grim and sad things, their connection to one another is really special and helps them go on in life. And I think it's beautiful that, you know, even during the hardest of times, you're still able to relate to other people, you're still able to connect to other people, and sometimes one relationship can do so much for you. That's Normal People. Sorry if the lighting changed. The sun is behind the building in front of us, so I do not have sunlight directly going through my windows anymore, but hopefully it's not too dark. I am just realizing that the rest of the books I read last year, so I did not do this in the best order, but that's okay. The next book is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is another memoir. As you can tell, I really love memoirs, autofiction in general, but that 3 of them are in my favorite books of all time says a lot. This one follows Patti Smith's journey as a young person, as she was trying to make her way through the art scene in New York, as well as her relationship with her best friend, Robert Mapplethorpe, who was a photographer. They had this beautiful friendship, and I remember saying this last year, I think, but when I was reading this, I was almost shocked because I don't really think that I believe in the concept of soulmates, but these 2 really did read and feel like soulmates. And that was shocking but nice in a way, and I think it's the power of literature in a sense that it really gives you new perspectives on things and allows you to grow and see life differently, see people differently. I think just just so incredible in that aspect. I also loved this book because it was very vibrant in the New York setting, but it's also not a success story, and I thought that was brilliant for a memoir from a, popular person. It's about them struggling through the art scene, and struggling together and holding on to each other in those times, and I thought that was beautiful. And if you have any sort of inclination towards any form of art, and I mean this more in the sense of expressing yourself through art forms, then you will most likely really enjoy this book, because it talks about creativity and it talks about how it was sustenance. I also remember Patti Smith saying, and I forgot if it was in an interview or something I read on her Substack, that when she wrote Just Kids, she decided not to write any scene that she couldn't vividly remember in her head because Robert didn't like reading. And I thought that did such a good service to this book, because I'm not someone who really imagines things very well when reading. I have to really concentrate to be able to conjure an image in my mind. But with this one, I was able to see the scenes, and I think that's a testament to her writing, but also to the choice that she made with only writing moments that she could vividly remember. I guess in a sense, this could also just be her writing to Robert and giving us, people who don't know her, the gift to read something like this. Is just amazing. I'm really excited to read more Patti Smith. I haven't done so yet, but on my radar is M Train, and I will definitely be rereading this at some point. There's another line that I remember from this book. It's rare for me to remember specific lines unless I've written them down or something, but I remember at some point, and this is really short, but I remember at some point Robert says, "Nobody sees as we do," and I thought that was just beautiful, and I wanted to tell you that line because I think it says a lot about the relationship. Next is Madonna in a Fur Coat by Samahatin Ali. This is the only classic in this list because I didn't want to talk about the classics that I've been reading. I'm keeping this one because it's a more modern classic. It was written in 1943, so it doesn't feel that long ago, and as I'm still making my way through some older classics, I want to get a sense of the ones that I like best before I give a list of my favorites. You've probably heard about this book if you watch book content creators, but when people talk about it, they talk about the yearning, and I think that's a part of this book, but I don't think it really is what this book is about. This book follows a man who is a bit lonely, and he works with an older man called Raif Effendi, and they form a very small connection. And this man that we're following, I don't think he's named, might be wrong about that, but he comes to be in the possession of Raif Effendi's journal, and then the book goes back to 1920s Berlin and follows Raif Effendi's life then. I was talking about the yearning because I think this book makes me think of a TED Talk by Ethan Hawke. I think it's called Give Yourself the Permission to Be Creative. I'm not exactly sure, but at some point he says something about how inevitably when either you go through something tragic or you go through something amazing and beautiful, you go towards art to feel understood. And in that TED Talk he says something like, when you feel so happy and you feel like life cannot get better, and you're feeling these intense feelings of love for somebody, art is what sustains you. And while this book does not talk about how art sustains you, I think it really explores that idea of meeting someone who changes your life and changes your perspectives of things, and also makes you see the world in a million new colors. And that's what I have felt through this book, and I also felt a lot of sadness coming from this. There's so many moments about loneliness, and that's something that always makes me sad. It moves me in general, and like with a few of these books, the loneliness being combated by meeting someone who's not necessarily the same person as you at all, but sees you and understands you and has that ability to take the time to understand you is beautiful, and it makes that relationship all the more special when you're following characters who struggle with being lonely. And in this book, the loneliness is very, very prevalent, and it's not just a feeling, it's also generally how Raif Effendi lives. He is lonely, he has no one around him, and he opens up to no one until he does. There are so many moments that had this like fervor of the intensity of a relationship that you get with someone, and I highly, highly recommend recommend it if you haven't read it. I don't think yearning is the right way to put it. I think it's more people connecting and what it means to connect to someone. It's really sad but beautiful, and I can't wait to revisit it at some point. And finally, we've got my other favorite books tied with the first one, Neapolitan Quartet by Elena Ferrante. I'm just gonna hold My Brilliant Friend because this is the first book in the quartet. I've talked about these books several times on my channel now. We follow Lila and Lenu through the course of their entire life. This is about their friendship with one another and largely about Lenu's life reconciling and rethinking through that friendship. These books have had such a long-lasting impact on me for very different reasons, but one of them, and I want to start with that, is the language. I think this opened up the realm of language for me. Ferrante's prose is so specific. I don't think I've ever read something like that. A lot of the sentences are really long and complex and have so many commas and go on and on. They're beautiful. And these books, despite this lyrical language, feel so real and visceral and raw and not like fiction at all. Sometimes I will love a book because I love the writing and it embellishes a story, but this writing encompasses the story, but the story still feels like it is above that writing. I don't know how that makes any sense at all. And it does go into writing a lot because Lenu is the person writing their friendship and their story. Her story largely, but her story focuses a lot on Lila. I don't think I can express it just better than these feel like real characters to me. These events feel like they've genuinely happened, and the detail that Ferrante put and the thought process behind all of this is very clear and apparent when you're reading these. I was so sad when the last book ended, and I still don't think about these books as much as I would other favorite books because they genuinely make me feel sad and tear up. I still haven't watched the show because I'm still not emotionally ready to be devastated all over again. And it's not even because it's genuinely devastating, it's because I felt so connected to these characters, not in the same way as Happy Place, but I just felt like I knew them. Every time I was reading and picking these books up, I was thinking, this is such a gift. This is such a gift that I am able to read this, that I will someday be able to read them again. And I don't think these books have, big life lessons, and there's not a lot of things that happen. They can be very slow, but they just felt so real. Like, it just felt like real life. And not only that, it was real life through beautiful writing. When I say that, I mean that the characters are sometimes insufferable. They make horrible decisions. You feel at times like Lila and Lenu just despise each other. It felt so introspective and poignant and specific and detailed, and I really, really, really loved these books. I only have amazing things to say about them. I don't know how to go on and explain and express it a bit more because I can't, so I'm gonna stop here for these books, and that brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you will be picking one of these books up. I'm so lucky that I get to read all the time, and even though I won't be able to read all of the books in the world, I'm really happy that I get to be moved by literature, as corny as that sounds. So yeah, those were my favorite books. I'll hopefully see you next week for a new video, and in the meantime, take care of yourselves and have a great rest of your day or night. Bye!